Okay, let's see if this works. So, watch and listen as I turn the regulator. How cool is that?
This is another Airsoft Mike production.
The U.S. Ordnance MK43 boasts 22 key improvements on the original M60 base model, removing unnecessary parts to create a lighter, more accurate machine that can produce a superior volume of fire downrange. The MK43 Mod 1 gives soldiers a fully automatic belt-fed weapon designed specifically to be shouldered and fired from offhand, kneeling and prone positions by a lone shooter. Setting aside the fact that one fires real rounds and the other real airsoft rounds, let's see how this airsoft version measures up to its real steel counterpart.
Ho, ho, ho. I'm excited for this. Now let me tell you straight away, this is not the only type of platform support weapon that I have in my collection. This is brand new in the box, yes, but it's not brand new on the market. And I do have other similar types already where I can use dummy rounds just for display purposes. But this one I never ever did get, and now I've got it. Come on! Okay, so I was actually wearing this camo for something else. I was filming something else and I decided to keep it on for this unboxing. Now, please keep it in mind, I am fully aware. Oh, wow. Okay, so I can't see the main piece itself yet, but I can see the box mag. Keep in mind that I do my research before I do videos, okay? And I am fully aware that some people, wow, will say they've had issues, feeding issues, all sorts of stuff. And some people report no issues whatsoever. So what do we get in the box? Oh, nice. I got worried for a second because we're in the UK. We don't do orange tips, right? And yeah, this one does come with an orange tip. But they do supply the legitimate metal flash hider. Nice. Okay, so what else do we have? Oh, here we go. Your 3,500 round box mag. And I love that it comes in its own little pouch. Cool. And there's another thing I like about this particular box mag. Unlike my other M249s I have in the collection, this doesn't need its own battery. It all runs off one battery for the AEG and the mag. Right, here we go. What a beautiful beast, and oh my gosh, the weight. Woo! Hold on, let me get this flash hider on. I'll be right back.
1 million zillion jillion dillion cotillion times later.
Oh my gosh, you will not really appreciate, unless you've done it yourself, how difficult it was to take that orange tip off. It wasn't just screwed on, it was glued on and it had a pin. But I got there in the end, and you have to be very precise so you don't damage anything else. But anyway, let's continue. Just got to clean up those orange remnants off the thread. I made sure nothing fell down into the inner barrel. So, you've got your cables that are coming from the Mark 43. On the top of the mag there, that's your power connection cable there that will plug into that. And of course, that's where you plug your battery. This tube right here is where your BBs are fed from. That tube needs to go through there, and then if you look, you can just see where you would screw that onto. And to mount the box mag onto the Mark 43, you would use this strap and this strap at the top. So this one here will go around the bottom, this one around the top. Now, back in the day when this first came out, people were just putting 9.6s and 8.4 standard batteries in here. Lipos weren't really a thing back then. They probably existed, but you certainly didn't see many of them in videos and stuff like that. I'm going to put a lipo in this, but I'm going to stick to 7.4. I will not put an 11.1 in this bad boy because no, you just don't. not in this configuration. So 7.4, which will perform better than your standard batteries anyway. And what with a LiPo being nice and slim, it can actually slot in just down there, look. Nice. Now, before I tuck the cables away and everything, I just need to show you where you fill this bad boy up from, which is down there. I'll tell you what, I'm pretty impressed with the amount of room you've got down in that space there. I mean, to the eye, it looks little, but the battery's down there, the Tamiya plug's down there, most of the cabling is tucked down there. Nice. Okay, so looking at it from this side, you know what I've got to do next, just to complete that picture. So, to gain access to this cover right here, you push this lever. Nice. And then of course, back on this side, you can put your dummy rounds. So before I put the dummy rounds on, well, should I say inert rounds, I just want to show you just down there is where you adjust your hop up. You can just see the top of it there, that lighter grey metal there. Let me show you a different angle. And right here you have your gearbox. And at the very back you can see where you can gain access to take out your spring, if you so wish, but you would need to remove your stock first. And I love how they've made under this cover look quite authentic. Now, whether these are the absolute correct ones or not, or whether the tops, when they, reconstructed these rounds, were not fully seated back in, I can see a couple of them are like that. They look correct, but some of them look a bit too long, but they do fit. But anyway, it's the closest I can get to. It's all I could find at the moment. And they are 7.62 rounds, so that'll do. Now, I'm not going to lie. A part of me wants to have it in this configuration where the rounds are going underneath that cover there. But it just doesn't sit right with me. These big chunks of pointy metal sitting right on top of a load of little plastic BBs. I don't know. Do you know what? For the purpose of this video, I will have these out and just rest it on the top. Would ya look at this beautiful beast? Now, if you saw my shorts or my Instagram, you would have known that this was coming, well, something like this was coming, and that I already own other variations like the M249, like the PK, or is it the PKM, one of those anyway, and another one. So let me just run you through the features on this beautiful Airsoft classic, which to me, it is such a relevant piece still in my eyes. The fact that you can still buy these even though they came out, what, about 16 years ago? But anyway, construction wise, you can see that at the rear here, the buttstock here is some form of polymer. The actual plate on the back, metal. You've got a shoulder rest, nice. And if you look at the top here, there's a point there where you can push through a strap for a sling, and of course it comes out at the rear. Okay, so as we move along, you've got your cheek rest, if you like, that's polymer. This section here, your feed-in tray cover, metal, and then everything else on this Mark 43, apart from your hand guard and both grips, is metal. And then tucked away behind the box mag above your grip is your safety switch. I was going to say fire selector switch, but technically it's not, because you're not selecting between different fire modes. It's either safe or full auto, baby. And it's ambidextrous. Nice. So let me just flick it to full auto and have a listen. Oh, nice and positive. Nice pistol grip style you've got here with a nice curvature there. So it really sits on your hand, because this beast comes in at a whopping 6.8 kilograms. Bruh. Good grief. But you know what? For what it is, it's not overly heavy when you're holding it properly. It does feel comfortable. Yeah, but it's still heavy as f. And then when we get back up to the cover for the feeding tray, you've got an AK serial number right there. It's 4 zeros and the number 16. Now, I don't think for 1 minute that that's a unique serial number. And they have definitely made some little changes and tweaks to when this first came out. For example, what you get and don't get in the box. Now, as you saw when I unboxed this, no instruction manual. When they first came out, you got an instruction manual and you got a little, it looked like a little Tamiya plug. It's a little adapter so you can bypass the regulator. That didn't come in my box. And another thing that they've changed, and I'm a little disappointed, but overall I love this, so I'm not too disappointed. There's no markings. On the first batches that came out, and for quite some time, you had markings here. And up there, right on top there beneath that rear sight, which by the way is awesome, but we'll get back to that in a moment. But there, it used to tell you that it was US made and the caliber and everything. But no, it's not there anymore. However, what you do still have is markings on the rear sight. And if this isn't one of my favorite looking rear sights on a platform, I don't know what is. Look at this beauty! An exquisite example of a rear sight assembly. Fully adjustable for windage and elevation. Nice. Okay, so you do have this sort of push button there. I'll get back to that once we get to the other side, because on the other end of that is a lever. But again, I'll come back to that. What I want to do though is show you this carry handle with warnings. I wouldn't use this as a carry handle. It just looks so flimsy. And look down there. That is the back end of 2 of the tiniest screws I've ever seen on a platform like this. And I think they've even thrown in a little cheeky grub screw there, all of which I truly believe is nowhere strong enough to handle this 6.8 kilogram beast of a machine gun. But you know me, I like to test things out. I would say there's going to be no problem just lifting it up once, but I wouldn't regularly do that. I mean, even there I'm feeling a bit worried. Let me put this back down. I could literally feel this poor little handle was hanging on to this Mark 43 for dear life, quivering. Anyway, nice huge handguard. Again, you've got a beautiful grip, a foregrip with some nice checkering. And as I'm taking you through this, those of you that know your thing when it comes to platforms like this, you can see the differences between this and what came before it, the Mark 60. And I must say, the thing I am really impressed with on this is the bipod. This is one of the best bipods I have seen on an airsoft platform. This thing is rock solid, does the job, no messing about, Bob's your uncle. And then we get to the business end. You've got your adjustable front sight, that awesome looking flash hider there, which I could make it go even more flusher, but I didn't. And then, of course, that regulator, which I think is fantastic, but I know some owners of this Mark 43 have disabled that, and I'm thinking, why would you do that? That's such a cool feature. Well, apparently, if you want this to spit out your BBs at an even faster rate, I think you need to bypass that regulator or potentiometer. What is it called?
You were correct the first time.
And then, of course, we have this awesome looking box mag with its own covering. I love this. It's airsoft, okay? So don't be too critical about how the placement is here and everything. But it's an awesome mag, takes a heck of a lot of BBs, and it does have a switch. I'm not about to take this cover off. It has a switch, so you can make it switch into a mode so it is constantly trying to feed the Mark 43, or you can switch it off altogether, or you can have it in the mode that I've got it in, which I prefer, which is it only activates when you pull the trigger. And that's how it should be, really, personally speaking. And I must say, I've got to speak about it again. This bipod is so rock solid. on other platforms, I feel so weary that they're going to break, and guess what? It literally happened. Now, if you watched my previous video, I showed you a little preview of my gun wall, and I showed you a couple of Barretts. The Barrett that's at the very top that I even forgot that I had. In fact, all you can see really is the scope up there, look, and you can see a bit of the buttstock there. Would you believe the bipod on that snapped? Now, I got that Barrett when I was fairly new into the world of making videos for YouTube on airsoft gear, and I was shocked and distraught because I thought, in my ignorance, it's metal. It shouldn't snap. And then I quickly learnt about a thing called pot metal. Right, so this is what I wanted to show you when I was on the other side about this button here. When you push that in, you can throw that lever upwards, and this is what I love about airsoft, when they replicate its real counterpart. Because now, if I wanted to, I can take out the barrel. However, be mindful of your cabling. You would need to unplug that first. Beautiful. Oh, by the way, right there is your front sling point. Here it is from the other side. Now, we get to the bolt handle. Now, you may be looking at this thinking, oh, that's not good. Why is it there like that? Exposing the cables and everything. Well, listen. Us airsofters are used to bolt handles springing back when you open it. No, because on the real version, because it's belt fed, you don't have that. So, you manually close it like that. Okay, let's see if this works. So, watch and listen as I turn the regulator. How cool is that? I love this. Right, this will be interesting. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start it off at its lowest rate and see what we get in terms of FPS and rounds per second. So there you go, at the slowest cycle you're going to get about 7 rounds per second, and there's your FPS right there. Let's just have a look at the average. Yeah, 297.4. Right, let's crank it up. This will never get old. I'm literally going to crank it up and show you me again cranking it up. And there you go, not a million miles off from being twice the rate of fire at 12 rounds per second. And again, pretty similar FPS. I mean, it does have an M100 spring in there. It is a quick change spring system. And if I was you, I'd swap that out for something a little bit tastier. You know, it's like a burger when you add cheese. Yeah, tastier. Although nothing beats a nice, simple, big, fat, juicy quarter pounder in a bun with freshly cut onions. Nothing else, no sauce, no cheese. Sorry, I digress. Need I say anything? Oh, the daggerness of it all is epic. I absolutely love this. This is the AMK Mark 43. And guess what's coming next week?
So please, whatever, please